Now, I wish I'd known this 10 years ago, and the first thing I could possibly say to you is that if you're a newcomer to the sport, or if you're starting to think about getting involved in match fishing, one of the first things that I strongly recommend you do is just be really realistic about what it is you're trying to achieve from your fishing. Lots of people get involved in match fishing for different reasons. One of them is some people just want to enjoy that little bit of competitiveness, plenty of banter, and obviously hopefully enjoy some nice fishing as well. Some people want to get involved in match fishing because they want to win. They want to make a name for themselves. They want to win some money, which is a nice incentive. Some people want to get involved in match fishing and have success on a match circuit because they want to attract a sponsor. So there are lots of different reasons why people get involved in match fishing. So the best thing I can say to you is just think about what it is you're actually trying to achieve. The reason why I say that is because from experience myself, and over the last 8 to 10 years, have mixed with lots and lots of people that have been involved in match fishing at all different levels, and I've seen lots of anglers come and go. And what can happen is that lots of people see these big events like the Maver Match This, Fisher Mania, the Golden Reel, all those sorts of big money events. Some of them are actually televised as well, and lots of people have got ambitions to get into one of those finals. I can totally relate to that, and I myself would love to be in one of those finals one day, but those competitions aren't really for me. The reason for that is because in order to get into those big money finals, you generally have to fish a number of qualifiers up and down the country, and in those particular competitions there is only one person that actually progresses through to that big money final. So when you start looking at the odds and the expenditure that it could cost you going to different venues all over the country, the expenses soon add up, and the chances of you actually winning any of those matches on some venues are really slim, because let's face it, on some venues, certainly when you get 100, 150 anglers on some of those venues, there are only a small percentage of the pegs where you can actually realistically qualify from, and you might not like those odds. So just have a look at the type of competitions that you're thinking of getting involved in, because if those are the competitions you fancy being part of, then obviously you've got to be prepared to drive lots of miles. You've got to be prepared to spend at least £100 on each qualifier, because depending on where those venues are and where those qualifiers are and the types of fishing that they are, you could easily be spending more than £100 per qualifier. So those matches might not be for you. Alternatively, there are loads of open matches, and you might be fortunate enough to have open matches near you on a venue of your choice, and if that's the case, just think about the types of venues that they are. You might love pole fishing. If that's the case, then you obviously want to be selecting a venue that is dominated by pole fishing. On the flip side of that, if you love your feeder fishing, don't expect to go to really nice fisheries that are probably of snake lake design, because they're not feeder style venues. So just have a look at what it is you actually want to be doing. Once you've found a venue, just have a look at the actual kit that you're going to need to target those venues. It's alright saying that there's a nice venue 5 miles away from you where it's full of F1s and carp and you only need 2 pints of maggots. That's great. But if it's 60 metres wide and lots of the fishing is based right across at the far bank, then you're going to need a 16-metre pole that you can actually use to compete against the anglers there. So have you got to go out and spend £3,000 on a new pole? Have a look at that sort of thing. And on the flip side of that as well is the actual bait. There are loads of commercial venues out there that are really nice and convenient and easy to fish. However, certainly through the summer months you might be needing a large quantity of bait. Now, a prime example of this is that, you know, one of the most common types of matches out there for club venues, for club matches, for club leagues, for open matches as well, and qualifiers, are snake lakes, the ones that are heavily stocked with F1s and carp. Now, one of the things and one of the problems you're going to have on venues like that, certainly through summer, is that you're not always going to know exactly what bait the fish are going to want. And an example of that is that on some occasions they will want pellets, on some occasions they will want maggots, and on some occasions they're going to want casters. And even if you've been on that venue the day, 2 days, 3 days before, you're not always going to know what they're going to need. So in those scenarios, you're going to be needing to spend quite a bit on bait in order to be equipped for what you might be faced with on the day. So in some scenarios, I know some of the big name anglers, they will be taking up to 8 pints of maggots to the peg with them, but they will also have 8 pints of casters with them as well, and they will also have, if it's allowed, up to 8 pints of pellets as well. So to have all those with you just in case, as you can see, the expenditure soon adds up. On the flip side of that, lots of the matches that I fish are feeder orientated, and certainly if they're bream venues, probably the biggest expenditure you're going to have are worms. Now, depending on where you live and where you actually get your worms from at the moment, you could be spending up to £20 per kilo of worm. Now, lots of the matches I fish, it's rare for me really to use more than about 1/4 kilo of worms, and that's even when I'm on a few fish. However, there are occasions when you might be on a pile of fish when you really need a kilo with you, just in case you are on one of those hot spots where the bream are. Those worms are probably going to be the biggest expenditure to you in bream matches. You might have a few casters on your bait tray, you might have a few dead maggots, you might have some pinkies, and then you've got your ground bait as well. So lots and lots of the feeder matches, you probably find that the expenditure to actually fish them is much cheaper than it can be on some of the commercials. If you're looking at summer fishing, you've obviously got to throw other baits into there as well. You might have meat on there, you might have corn, and all that really depends on the type of venue that you're going to get involved in. So whilst the fixed costs are always going to be the same, so by fixed costs we mean the match entry fee, so that could be anything these days from £20 to £40. That is the cost to enter the match. That is always going to be the same. There are on some matches optional super pools, so that is, as the name suggests, optional, so you might have an extra £10 or £20 on the top of that if you actually want to enter a super pool. So those are the fixed costs, okay, and they're the costs that are always going to be the same. You can't ignore those. However, if you are thinking of getting involved in match fishing at whatever level that might be, think about the variable costs. Now they're the costs that can really escalate. Now they're the costs that involve diesel money, travelling to the venue of choice. Obviously you've got to go there and back. You've got the bait bill to think about as well. Okay, have a look at the type of fishing that you're going to be doing, and have a look at realistically what kind of a bait and amount of bait and volume that you're going to need with you in order to compete against the anglers there that already know the venue. Okay, and have a look at the kit that you're going to need. Are you actually on your chosen venue going to need to go out and buy anything? It could be you might need a whole new set of pole rigs, a new set of top kits for your pole, it could be different types of reels, rods, it could be anything. But have a look and just do a little bit of research into that. And the final point, which is something that lots of people overlook, okay, and this is one that will relate to more viewers on this channel than anything, and that is some venues have lots of open matches, and so that will inevitably mean that some people are going to be spending quite a bit of time on that venue. Now if you are like Mr. Joe average and you work Monday through to Friday, you might only have the luxury of one day on the bank each week. So if you're going to head off to this venue on a Saturday or Sunday, you've been looking forward to it all week, this is your match day, this is your day's fishing for that week. If you are going to one of those venues, be prepared to not be up to speed with some of the anglers there, because some of the anglers there, certainly if it's a well-known fishery, if they've got 2, 3, 4 matches on there a week, some fisheries have more than that each week, you're going to have venue experts. You're going to have people who have got the luxury of spending 2, 3, 4 days on that venue, so they are going to have an head start on you. So be prepared for that. You've got to be realistic about it, you know, to take on some of these lads, and some of them will be full-time anglers anyway, so they will be very good anglers, but they will also have lots of up-to-date venue knowledge. If you're prepared for that, it's not going to be quite so painful when you find yourself that you might be 2, 3 hours behind them, because they will have a head start. And if that is going to be an issue for you, and you're looking for a venue to focus on, to specialise on, then have a look at a venue that only has 1 match a week on, or 2 matches a week, because that way you're not going to have quite as many venue specialists that are going to be having a head start on you that have been fishing there while you've been at work all week. I'm sure there are loads of questions that are going to spin off from this, and there are topics that I can go into in more detail for you, and if there are, then please post them underneath this video in the comments, and I'll do my very best to help you out with any of those questions, and I will feature some of them in future videos. I really hope you found this useful if you are new to match fishing. If you have, please give this video a thumbs up, and I'll keep sharing my experiences with you that are hopefully going to help you enjoy your fishing much more.